Welcome to Coco's Corner. I'm the huge one, Dave Coco from Kocosports.com, KOCO where the world comes to kick ass, your home for combat sports, and where it's okay to be a passionate fan. I want to do more Fave 5 shows. I want to do more Japanese pro wrestling shows or pro-wres shows. So I said, you know what? Got to start with the first one. So this is my Fave 5. I promised a couple of people on Twitter and Facebook and social medias and YouTube comments I would do this. I was planning on doing it a long time ago, but let's do this. I did it earlier in the week in an All Japan show, and at one time, All Japan was in my Fave 5, and they made a lot of mistakes, split off into different companies, and a lot of those companies that you'll see here. So that we split off in different companies. A lot of those companies do make it, but All Japan is not in my Fave 5, even though when I started watching pro-wres 10, 20 years ago, All Japan was what got me into it. But as of right now, I'm seeing if this works. Bam, bam, bam. My number 5. Listen, there were so many promotions that it was hard to do. But my number 5 is Pro Wrestling Zero1, started by Hashimoto. Probably would be a lot higher. They are really good at bringing in out of talent. They had Hashimoto, which was one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, had his son, who recently left Zero1 to join Inoki's promotion. So Zero1 is on hard times. I've heard a lot of wrestlers, the scuttlebutt, that Zero1 is going out of business. I really didn't believe it, but now it does. It's home to some of the great wrestling matches. It's been around. I think I went to their 10-year anniversary, and that was Hashimoto's son's first match. So maybe 12 or 13 years, probably the same year around Impact, TNA, and ROH came out, and they had a really good run. And I'm not saying it's over. I'm just saying it's not looking good. Matter of fact, I was arguing if I should make them number 4 or number 5. I bumped up number 4, dropped it to number 5. These guys barely made it. Now listen, in Japan, there are so many indie feds. There's so many great comedy feds. There's so many great hardcore feds. There's so many great women's wrestling and all, feds. But the problem with a lot of the indie feds and a lot of the comedy, women's, and hardcore is either they don't run enough shows to be in my Fave 5, or they just go out of business so quickly. You could probably do a Fave 100 of pro wrestling companies that run in Tokyo alone. It's absolutely crazy. But my number 5 and dropping Zero1. The one good thing about Zero1 though is they have Zero1 USA, Zero1 Australia, and they are traveling. They do work with people around the world. And if you're a foreigner trying to become a pro wrestler in Japan, they might be the first step. I know the Sheik out of the USA, and when you watch Zero1, you'll see people from around the world, and it's kind of interesting. So Zero1 is probably a good promotion for those that want to be pro wrestlers to get their first step into it. So Zero1 is still good for that, and it's an enjoyable product. It really is. I mean, I enjoy it a lot, and one of my favorite wrestlers calls home there, and that's Tanaka. He's really awesome, and most of you know him for battling Mike Awesome. So Zero1 is in my top 5, but it's dropping down. I'm afraid. So yeah, if you're ever in Japan, check out Zero1, and like I said, it is probably a really good place to go to see. All right, bam. Number 4. This wasn't even in my top 5, but they've been improving little by little, and I hate to say it, a little bit has to do with TNA. A lot of it has to do with Muda. He was promised to be in charge of All Japan, and that did not happen. Muda quit. Muda took some of All Japan's talent, or most of All Japan's talent, started his own thing on Wrestle 1, and around Japan, Wrestle 1, or W1, is still known as, oh, go see Great Muda and other guys. Like, it's not seen as a legit promotion. Matter of fact, if I was a TNA fan and you're like, wow, we're teaming up with Wrestle 1, I can't wait. They did only draw 750 people to the last show at the arena that TNA is going to be running Slammiversary in. I love Great Muda. Great Muda could wrestle in a garage. Great Muda could wrestle in All Japan. Wrestle 1, I love Great Muda. I'm going to support the Great Muda. He's probably one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, if not the my favorite wrestler of all time. And TNA works with them, so you get to see a lot of TNA talent come over. And the good thing about TNA talent coming over is in Japan, they just focus on, well, not all the time, but most of the time, focus on in-ring wrestling. So you'll see guys like Austin Aries bust their ass, the American Wolves bust their ass, and yeah, so they work with TNA, bring over a lot of talent, and have the great Muda. And to me, I was always a bigger fan of Zero1, but I think Wrestle 1 has surpassed them, and hopefully they keep growing and growing and growing. But if you want my honest opinion, besides working with TNA, they're the promotion that everyone's like, oh, that's Muda's. I mean, you could have called this Muda Wrestles with other guys. Dun, da, da, and it would probably still draw the same amount of people. And not only that, but Muda is also kind of a free agent, so not only does he wrestle 1, but you'll see him at the bigger events. You'll probably see him always at the Dome show, most likely. So there you go. So there is Wrestle 1 is number 4 and growing. Boom, boom, and growing. And number 3, this hurts me a lot. It should be maybe a lot higher. Maybe it's a lot higher than others. The top 3 federations you can switch left. You can switch over and over and over again, and you'll have people arguing. Pro Wrestling Noah is great for in-ring. They bring over the best of the indies. They had a real problem. Misawa passed away. A lot of their athletes were left or passed away. It was a real big thing, and Pro Wrestling Noah almost went out of business, and they were hurting. And then they said, you know what? Everyone loves Kenta. Let's just put the company on this kid's shoulders. And he ran with it. Now Kenta has left for WWE, and I hope, WWE, you better not fuck up Kenta. You better not. You better not. I fucking, come on. I can't even make a threat. I'll just break down and fucking cry. But Kenta is a great wrestler. There's always a joke. If you had a finisher and you were main eventing in WWE, you stole it from Kenta. A lot. CM Punk's go to sleep, Daniel Bryan's. There's moves left and right that Kenta basically created. Kenta was amazing, and it was a really sad day. People got emotional when he admitted he was going to WWE. I love how he sound like. I love how there's a difference between how people word stuff. Like, some people would be like, he's finally going to WWE, he's going to WWE. Like, we say it like it's a problem. Oh, he admitted it, he's going to WWE. Hopefully Pro Wrestling Noah still goes on, but Pro Wrestling Noah, I would put up there with, I'd say an American level or a North American level would be maybe Ring of Honor, if Ring of Honor had national television and control. It's like Ring of Honor in-ring, but does a lot better business-wise. So Pro Wrestling Noah has had its ups and downs. Now, there are people that are getting very fucking angry with me because they'll be like, Pro Wrestling Noah's number fucking 1! And there is a battle between New Japan and Pro Wrestling Noah. And New Japan, you know, is probably the best wrestling in the world, but not all the fans like it. Sometimes they think the matchups are stale. Maybe that's why they brought in AJ Styles. I know a lot of New Japan fans that went over to Pro Wrestling Noah, and there are fans that follow all pro wrestling, but usually when you go to a pro wrestling bar, you usually like 1 or 2 or 3 or just an athlete, because they run so many events. We're in Tokyo. It's kind of, you have to be loyal to a company or it's overwhelming. Like, a lot of people are like, wow, it must be great. You get to see all this wrestling, and you're like, yeah. When wrestling becomes, like, you can literally see an event. You can literally probably see 2 or 3 events 5-6 days a week. You can definitely see 1 7 days a week. But if you're fucking busting your ass and you can see 2 or 3, so for being a Japanese pro wrestling fan and living in Japan, living in Tokyo, it does become overwhelming. So like when you go to a lot of these Japanese pro wrestling bars, they are very, very loyal. And I notice a lot of New Japan fans are jumping off the bandwagon of Pro Wrestling Noah. So if Pro Wrestling Noah is your number 1, I completely understand. No hard feelings, pal. All right, bam, bam. Number 2, biggest shocker of this, because I just said they are the best wrestling company in the world, and they are. They are the best wrestling company in the world, without a doubt. You hold the gun to my head. Who's the best wrestling company in the world? Oh, New Japan Pro Wrestling. You hold the gun to my head and said, who's number one in the top 5? New Japan Pro Wrestling. What? New Japan Pro Wrestling is the best company in the world, period. Noah fans might argue. But this ain't the top 5, even though probably search engine-wise and hit-wise and view-wise, probably more people would watch these. But no, we're an honest channel here. These are my fave 5. I love New Japan probably more than anything except number 1. I absolutely love New Japan. I think, without a doubt, it is the best wrestling in the world. Their events, the G1, the Wrestle Kingdom show, just nothing beats it. Nothing beats New Japan. They have the best athletes in the world. They have the best, I'd say, storylines, but sometimes the storylines get mixed up. The only negative thing that, especially a lot of people that jumped off the New Japan bandwagon and jumped onto Noah is that they had a problem, and I think that's why they fucking forced the belt on AJ Styles so quick, which I don't agree with. They had a problem of everyone wants to see Tanahashi versus Okada. Like, if you went to New Japan right now and you said, all right, vote, who do you want to wrestle at tonight's match? They'd be like, Okada Tanahashi. All right, we saw that. What do you want to watch tomorrow? Okada Tanahashi. Okay, we saw that twice. What do you want to... 27 days from now, you still had the poll. Those motherfuckers would still be voting for Tanahashi Okada. And you know what? I'm one of those guys. I'm like, I could watch Tanahashi versus Okada for the rest of my life. Just set it up, watch it. I was actually angry when AJ Styles won the title for many reasons. But A, I thought Okada was booked completely horrible after he lost the title. And second is that it was such a slap in the face to Prince Devitt. But New Japan, even though it's the best wrestling company in the world, it is not my number 1. Bam. Bam. My number 1, my favorite pro-res company, as I'm stalling because I'm trying to figure out buttons. I probably should have did that a lot better. Dragon Gate. Dragon Gate is nowhere near as popular as Noah, nowhere near as popular as New Japan, nowhere near as probably, if you said, is it the best wrestling in the world? I'd be like, well, it's for everybody. But it has something for everybody. My whole family loves it. It has something for kids. It has something for women. Maybe a little too much for women. I question Dragon Gate might be a brothel. But they have a lot for women. If you go to a Dragon Gate show, you'll see tons of beautiful Japanese women there. You'll see kids there. You know how WWE is like, we're family friendly, we're for everybody. It's bullshit. Dragon Gate is for everybody. My kids, granted, they know the language, so that they speak Japanese and English, so that's a huge help. My kids would not watch anything besides Dragon Gate. I mean, they might have a favorite wrestler here and there, but it's Dragon Gate. They're not interested in going to WWE events. They're not interested in John Cena. They are interested in Dragon Gate. And Dragon Gate, the women, they're for everybody. The only negatives I could say about Dragon Gate is they do attract a lot of women, but sometimes if you're like a homophobe, you might be like, oh, I don't want to see that guy's ass or something like that. That might be a downfall, but I don't know. That might be your own problem. And another thing is that it can be very confusing. I'm like, even if you know Japanese, even if someone translates it in English, like if we sat down in Dragon Gate and it would be like we're watching a match, I'd be like, oh, okay, well this is for the title, this is for the key, this is for the team championship, this is for that, this is for this. Dragon Gate can be very, very confusing. So a lot of people are like, what the fuck, I just want to watch pro wrestling, fuck this shit. They have keys, you have to win so many keys to get the title, you can lose, you can beat the champion, but if you don't have enough keys, you don't get the title. There's teams, and the great part about teams is every single match matters, and you buy tons of merchandise. I mean, I have people that are Dragon Gate fans, and they're like, oh yeah, I only like Mad Blanky, fuck the rest of the teams, and they're fucking loyal to just their team. And it's crazy, and I remember Yamato. Yamato used to be a babyface, and he went to Mad Blanky, and there really is no heels, babyfaces, and Dragon Gate, just teams, but Mad Blanky is kind of like, I don't know, the Bronx Bullies, the New York Yankees. They're kind of the douchebags. They do a lot of heel tactics, but people still love them because they're not sitting there going, you what? You fucking boo John Cena? Well, fucking you. No, they just like boo, cheer whoever you want. They don't pipe in crowd noise. They don't. And I remember Yamato was a good guy, and he fucking turned and joined Mad Blanky, and legit, there were fucking people crying. And I was just like, dude, anytime a pro wrestling company in a storylines gets that emotional response, you're fucking the man. You're just awesome. Congratulations. And now, as far as in-ring storyline-wise, there's nothing else in the world like it. Nothing else in the world like it. It's, trust me, maybe one day I'll make the fucking video where I just explain how everything works, but I've done this plenty of times at a wrestling bar with a foreigner. They're like, oh, this is why Dragon Gate's great. You need the keys. You need this. You need that. And after I explained everything, they're just like, I don't fucking get it. But get past the crazy storylines, which I absolutely love, which is, everyone's like, I want to be original. And dude, Dragon Gate is fucking one of a kind. It's an original. And then you talk about in-ring style, okay? Is New Japan the best wrestling in the world? Yes. Is Noah Ring of Honor in-ring amazingness? Yes. But Dragon Gate is cruiserweight pro wrestling, my favorite type of pro wrestling, cruiserweight, X Division, whatever you want to fucking use for your lingo, on fucking crack. Just, those guys fly around the fucking ring, and when they start getting going, it's amazing. And not only that, but their television deal is also awesome. You go to a Dragon Gate event, or you watch Dragon Gate on your television, it's almost the same thing, because they barely have any commercials, which, great for the fans. Dragon Gate, oh, you might want to get a better salesman. They barely have any commercials, and it's like a 4 to 6 hour block of just one event. You are there, you are watching the event. So, like, it's kind of funny because, like, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to go watch Dragon Gate, and, like, I have to clear my schedule. Be like, all right, listen, the kids are at school, my wife is working, my dog, I don't have a dog, who cares? But anyway, Dragon Gate is amazing, and it's my favorite promotion. It's my favorite promotion by far. And like I said, I want to do more reviews and more Japanese videos, but I think like if it came to like Dragon Gate, New Japan, no, I'd be like, it's fucking awesome, go watch it. But I'll try. I'll also do more stories, more Fave 5s. And I don't know how much you want me to break each thing down, but I'm having a lot of fun. So I'm going to do more Fave 5s. I'm going to try to get other YouTubers involved on the Fave 5s and other people. Maybe guests, pro wrestlers I know. Not big-time pro wrestlers, because, the big-time pro wrestlers, not to be a dick, but big-time pro wrestlers, this is how it happens. There's two things. You're like, hey, can you do Fave 5 with me? All right, sure. And then they feel like, them coming on your show builds a friendship. And then if you're like, hey, that fucking wrestler sucks, they're like, oh, but I did a Fave 5 on your YouTube. How could you say that? And fucking, dude, it's such a fucking dramatic bullshit. That's why when you see a pro wrestler on other podcasts, it's such an ass-kissing fest. Do you really want that? Is that what you want? No, that's not what you want. Well, maybe, but that's not what I want. So I'm a dick. Anyway, so yeah, maybe I'll get some other wrestlers. I'll think about maybe getting some Japanese pro wrestlers who speak English, or English-speaker wrestlers who live in Japan. Maybe I'll get some of them on. But I'll hopefully do more Fave 5s and hopefully do more Japan pro wrestling videos. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I talk really fast, but yeah, so those are my Fave 5s. In the comments below, put your Fave 5 Japanese pro wrestling, and also any questions you have about Japanese pro wrestling, I'll answer it, and if I don't know it, I'm not going to pretend I know it. I'll just go out and ask someone. Be like, hey, fucking shish kebab from fucking Nebraska wants to know how big is Muda's dick? And then I'll be like, hey, you, pro wrestling guy, how big's Muda's dick? All right. But anyway, yeah, so if you got any questions, comments, please leave them down below. Also, put your Fave 5 and our weekend review. I'm still hunting down Rob. If not, maybe I'll do it solo. If not, we'll have to wait a day. All right, I'm going to retire this show like Petey Williams, Santino, and BJ Penn. Man, what a crazy day in combat sports. And you can all check it out at Kocosports.com, KOCOsports.com. Hopefully I'll be back with another show. And if not, I'll definitely see you after Monday Night Raw. And yeah, Kocosports.com. Go there. Be cool. Leave a couple comments. Relax. Pick up your feet. Enjoy it. We hope to improve this podcast and that website enough so that we become your everyday stop. Hopefully that happens. We're working on it. All right, go to Kocosports.com, Kocosports.com. And with that, I am over.